I was utterly shocked when my husband suddenly declared that unless I transferred ownership of our house to his name, he would consider divorce. To me, this house is more than just bricks and mortar. It's a vessel for countless cherished family memories. The thought of losing it was unbearable. His ultimatum felt like a cold manipulation of my emotions, and I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. In my distress, I turned to the one person I knew would understand: my father. My name is Patricia, and I'm a 32-year-old full-time housewife. For the past 3 years, I've dedicated myself entirely to managing our home after marrying Terry. I left my career to fully support our household, while Terry took on the role of primary breadwinner. But our peaceful life hit a rocky patch after Terry's father passed away unexpectedly, prompting his mother to move in with us. I was only given a day's notice before her arrival, which was unsettling enough. As I struggled to adjust to this sudden change, Terry casually mentioned that my mother-in-law would be staying indefinitely. He dropped this bombshell while coming home from work, expecting me to make all the necessary arrangements overnight. I was stunned. I had thought it was just a visit, but no, she was here to stay, and the decision had been made entirely without me. When my mother-in-law arrived, she carried with her a heavy air of discontent. The moment she stepped inside, she chastised me for not picking her up at the station, saying it was common courtesy. Caught off guard, I explained that I hadn't known her arrival time. She snapped back that I should have called to check, accusing me of being thoughtless. "This is why some in-laws are just useless and inconsiderate," she muttered, settling herself on the sofa as if she owned the place. I was left speechless. From that day forward, her criticism only intensified. Every morning after Terry left for work, she would start, "Patricia, why are you just sitting there? The dishes aren't done yet. Why isn't the laundry finished? That's just common sense." I'd apologize and promise to do the laundry after the dishes were done, but she fired back, "Your priorities are all wrong. In my house, laundry is done right after breakfast. Haven't your parents taught you anything about running a household?" I had developed my own daily routine long before she arrived, but nothing seemed to satisfy her. No matter how closely I followed her instructions, she always found something to criticize. The hours spent alone with her each day became unbearable. Then one day, it hit me: I had a way out of this nightmare. I remembered the house my father had left me after he and my mother retired to the countryside. It wasn't far from where Terry and I currently lived, and we had already talked about moving there eventually. With the constant tension of living under my mother-in-law's roof weighing on me, I decided it was time to suggest we move sooner rather than later. "Terry, can we talk for a moment?" I asked one evening. "What's up? Did something happen?" I asked, sensing the tension in Terry's voice. "Do you remember the house my father left us? What do you think about moving there?" "Oh, that house. We talked about moving there someday. Why the sudden decision?" "I've been having some real difficulties with your mother. She might not have mentioned it, but I can't stand living with her anymore. That's why I'm seriously considering the move. Since the new place isn't too far, I thought we could make the switch and let her stay here." To my surprise, Terry agreed. After discussing it with Kayla, we decided to move within the week. I had anticipated some resistance from her, but she accepted our decision with a bright smile. "Goodbye, Terry and Patricia. I'm so sorry for the sudden decision to move," she said cheerfully. "Don't worry about it," Terry replied, visibly relieved. "It's generous of your dad to have given us that house," Kayla remarked, her smile widening. "Thank you, and please visit us sometime soon," I added, feeling a surge of hope. "Of course. We're not that far away, and I'd love it if you came to see us regularly," she said, her voice filled with anticipation. "I will, I promise," as we wrapped up our conversation. Once we moved into our new home, a wave of relief washed over me. I was thrilled at the prospect of no longer enduring Kayla's biting remarks. Here, I could finally live freely, setting my own schedule and routines. Initially, I worried about how she might react, but discussing the move with Terry had calmed my nerves. However, this newfound peace was short-lived. Although the distance from my mother-in-law helped reduce my stress, Terry began coming home late, sometimes not at all. He justified his absences by saying he was worried about his mother, but his frequent unannounced late nights were disrupting my life in a significant way. This can't continue, I thought, feeling the weight of uncertainty settle back in. One day, I knew it was time for a serious conversation. "Terry, you've been coming home really late lately, and sometimes you don't come home at all." "Is that so?" he replied casually. "I'm just worried about my mother." That's not the issue here, I said firmly. At the very least, you should let me know if you're going to be late, so I don't wait up for you or prepare dinner unnecessarily. Since you're a housewife and always at home, you can just eat the leftovers for lunch the next day, he suggested thoughtlessly. So, you're saying I should just accept everything in silence because I'm a housewife? Are you implying we shouldn't even discuss this? Don't housewives have it easy at home? His words shocked me. What are you even saying? I countered, hurt and frustrated. Besides, I'm worried about leaving my mother alone. Amy will be coming back soon, and I need to discuss some things with her. Wait, Amy is coming back? What do you need to discuss with her? My curiosity shifted to anxiety as I pressed for more information. We're moving Amy in here to live with us. She's always wanted a big house like the one she had abroad, so I thought it would be a good idea to let her stay here, Terry explained nonchalantly. What? I exclaimed, completely taken aback. My sister-in-law is going to live in our house. I was overwhelmed, struggling to process this unexpected news. Just as I had begun to enjoy a reprieve from Kayla's relentless critiques, a new challenge loomed ahead. My husband had announced that his sister Amy was moving in with us. I was stunned. This house wasn't just any property. It was the home I inherited from my father, and the thought of simply handing it over felt utterly wrong. It's the only sizable house that would work for Amy, my husband reasoned. The apartment where we used to live is too cramped for 4 people. But I never intended for us to live with Amy. Instead, I plan to give this house to her, he declared. What? I gasped, struggling to grasp his logic. Because we plan to move back in with my mother, Amy can use this house freely, he explained. His proposal was unreasonable, and I felt faint from the shock. I had clearly stated that I had no desire to live with my mother-in-law again. Terry's irritation grew. Can't you be a little more considerate? You live here because of my support, so just do as I say. This house is wasted on you, he snapped. Why should I give it to Amy? This house is precious to me. It was inherited from my father, I protested. I already told Amy I've got her a large house. It's too late to change it now, he continued as if the matter was already settled without my consent. You decided all of this without even consulting me. I can't accept it, I replied, struggling to maintain my composure. Calm down and think about it. I'll go back to my mother's for a while, he said angrily before slamming the door and leaving. Alone, I was in tears, trying to comprehend why my husband would make such unilateral decisions. It was inconceivable that he intended to give away the house I had inherited from my father to my sister-in-law. Every day after that, he sent me messages asking if I had calmed down and urging me to return soon. Each time, I firmly reiterated that I had no intention of complying with his plans. Then one day, he dropped another bombshell over the phone. Hey Patricia, when will you come here and live with me? Stop nagging. I've said it so many times. I had no intention of living with Kayla or giving this house to Amy. I've already told Amy to stop being selfish. I shot back, more resolved than ever to stand my ground. His blatant disregard for my feelings and our shared life left me in shock. She might be returning this week, so there's no time to waste, he said. Why should I give up my house for your family? I inherited this house from my father. Don't make decisions without consulting me. Who do you think you're talking to? My voice trembled with frustration. Even my mother was furious about the situation, echoing my sentiments. That's not my problem. You're ignoring my feelings, I responded firmly. On the other end of the line, I could hear Terry let out a heavy sigh, his frustration palpable. Then he said something that shook me to my core. If you can't listen to me, then let's get a divorce. Hand over the house to Amy and leave by tomorrow. At that moment, any remaining affection I had for him evaporated. The idea of using divorce as a threat, without any regard for my feelings, was utterly despicable. I couldn't forgive him for wielding such a threat, his tone laced with arrogance. Listen, if you don't leave by tomorrow, I'll divorce you. That's it. Wait, are you serious? I asked, incredulous. Of course, you don't have a choice. What will you do if you, a housewife, get divorced? You can't survive, he taunted. Enough. I get it, I said sharply. Hurry up and move over here. My mother is looking forward to disciplining you. With that, he hung up, confident that I would comply. But after that call, I was resolute. I decided to seek help from my father to devise a plan. By the next day, everything was ready for my move. When Terry inquired about it, I replied calmly, by the way, I'm curious. When will Amy be back? She'll be back tomorrow. Why are you so obsessed with Amy? He questioned, a hint of suspicion in his voice. Between you and me, she seems to have made quite a sum from stock investments, I mentioned casually. I see, so if you provide her with a house, maybe you can ask for financial help, he suggested, trying to rationalize his stance. That's so typical of you, I shot back. Anyway, you need to leave that house today. It's inconvenient for all of us. Don't worry, I've already moved, I said coolly. What do you mean? My husband's surprise was evident. I knew it. You don't want to divorce me, do you? Without an income, you can't survive, he claimed, still underestimating my resolve and independence. All of this is coming to an end. We're still legally married, and that's the only reason we're even having this conversation, I said, my voice steady and resolute. Wait, what? I can only think about divorce now, I added, shocking him with my directness. You promised to move out of that house and live with me, but you've already moved. What are you saying? He stammered, confusion and rising panic evident in his voice. Of course I won't live in a house with a husband who makes all the decisions and a domineering mother-in-law. Why are you including me in your plans for Amy? I retorted. You promised to move out for Amy, he argued, clinging to his previous demands. I've already moved, didn't I? Enough with the jokes. Where are you now? He asked, his tone growing increasingly panicked. I'm at my parents' house. I moved to their rural home and don't plan on returning, I explained calmly, knowing this news would unsettle him further. You should have told me that sooner, he replied, a hint of relief mixed with frustration in his voice. If you truly want to give the house to Amy, here's the deal. It's on the market for $520,000. Buy it for that amount and hand it over to her. Are you joking? I'm serious. The house is still in my father's name, so I asked him to sell it, I clarified, laying out my actions and intentions. My father always said that if anything happened, I should contact him. I could either live in the house or sell it as I saw fit, and he would help me. As a result of the valuation, a price of $520,000 was proposed, which I gladly accepted, and we put the house on the market immediately. My husband probably never anticipated I would take such decisive action. Why are you doing this without asking me? This is unforgivable, he spat, consumed by anger and disbelief. I'm not asking for nor do I need your approval. We're getting divorced soon anyway. I don't care, I replied firmly. Do you understand your position? You'll be the one in trouble if we divorce since you have no income. You're just a housewife. His attempt to belittle me only fueled my resolve. I'd rather struggle on my own than be with you forever, I shot back, cutting off his manipulative tactics. Amy will be coming back soon, he started, but I was no longer interested in his threats or plans. I was determined to reclaim my independence and dignity. I mentioned before that I'm counting on Amy's financial contributions, didn't I? So if you want Amy to have that house, you can buy it for $520,000, if you can, I pointed out. What? That's impossible, he exclaimed. If Amy has made a fortune from her investments, I don't see why she couldn't afford it, I countered, sensing he was caught off guard. I'm not sure how much she made, but claiming she can't afford it sounds like excuses to me, I replied, refusing to yield to his lack of accountability. Realizing further discussion was pointless, I made my stance clear. I'm finished with this chaos you've created. Did you think threatening me with divorce would make me surrender the house? If you assume that being a housewife means I'll simply obey, you're deeply mistaken. Let's just calm down and discuss this, he suggested, attempting to soften his tone. I am calm. It seems you're the one panicking. I won't let you or your family control me any longer. Go back to your mother and stay out of my life, I exclaimed loudly, ensuring my voice carried. With that, I abruptly ended the call, fed up with the constant turmoil. I blocked his number and sought legal advice, pursuing a divorce. It took time, but eventually the divorce was granted, recognizing my husband's faults. He and Kayla continued to live in that cramped apartment, while Amy, unable to secure the large house she desired, expressed her frustration and returned overseas, feeling misled. My ex-husband's hopes of leveraging his sister's financial success crumbled, leaving him struggling with the burden of alimony and supporting his self-centered mother. His prospects for a thriving future seemed bleak. In contrast, I relocated to the countryside, enjoying peaceful days with my parents. I began a new job as a clerical worker at a local company, thanks to a neighbor's recommendation. With this job, I found financial independence and contentment. I decided to stay close to my parents for the foreseeable future, cherishing the chance to give back to them for all their support and love.